It's Grimm Reader here. I'm back. I kind of want to get this done. Lily is in the background. If she's grooming too much, I'll do this, but we'll just let her groom. So I just wanted to get my top 10 up and top 10 reads of 2020. And I saw this tweet by a booktuber, Matthew Skirapa. I'll figure out who it is. And he kind of compelled us to rank. He said, be ruthless, whatever, rank. So I am going to rank. But it's sort of, the differences are minuscule in some cases. And I have my pile here. So let's get to it. Starting off with, and I'm not going to say a lot about these, and some videos I've already talked about. But I'm just going to show them to you basically. And so the number 10 spot is going to be the spiral staircase, My Climb Out of Darkness. And I have already done, I talked about this in my Vlogmas, one of my Vlogmas videos was an update on, well, I'm trying to remember if I actually have it could be Vlogmas / a review of this, but I have talked about this. And it's I think it's my only nonfiction in the pile. I don't distinguish because I don't really read enough nonfiction. And I did find it very good and very moving. And yeah, so it did make the top 10. In the number 9 spot, we have a sort of, it has memoir aspects or autobiographical parallels, but but it is a fictional novel. And it's Edwidge Danticut's first novel, so she was quite young when she wrote this, and I did think it was wonderful. Breath, Eyes, Memory, about this young girl who has to move to her mother from Haiti to New York City, and just the difficulties of the sort of trauma related to the culture that is passed down sort of from the mother to the daughter, and just how they cope with that, and then also the coping of the sort of the culture shock from moving from Haiti to New York and then back, and sort of very poetic, interesting, sort of oblique way of telling the story, but it's nevertheless moving and memorable, and I really did like it. So coming in at number 9. Number 10, 9, 8. It's kind of this is sort of, I'm not sure if 8 is the right number for this one, but it is a wonderful novel. And this is The Known World by Edward P. Jones. I kind of wanted to put this higher, but you know, they're all, this is a really wonderful novel, and it telling you about it reminds me, I wanted to look at his collection that I know that Sean the Book Maniac has talked about too, and he loved this novel too. He made me do it, and he was right, per usual, almost per usual. With Sean, whenever he loves a book, I love it too, and then there's some books that I love even though Sean doesn't love them. Thank you, Sean. Amazing novel, and just the way it was told was really fascinating, and the story itself is sad and fascinating. There's a sadness to it, a darkness to it, because it does take place among slave owners, and also a black slave owner, which is sort of interesting, and this but it's sad, but then the people still have these sort of really interesting interior lives, and so I like this a lot. Number 10, 9, 8. Number 7, Lincoln in the Bardo, another fantastic read, very interesting, unique read, and also sort of a sort of rollicking read. It wasn't sort of heavy. It was sort of, it moved along in a nice pace. So very interesting take on the Civil War by George Saunders, and just the whole post what happens to, you know, the ghosts that these people, the village of ghosts that the cemetery is. Now this is hard for me to do, to put this up. Only the next book at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, but it's at 6, but it's, you know, it's still a wonderful book. And I did just post a video about this one, how much I loved it. So Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead comes in at number 6 for the year. 10. I was somewhat rudely interrupted, so I'm coming back here after a cut with my number 5. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number 5 is Alberta and Jacob, the first installment in the fantastic trilogy of Alberta trilogy by Cora Sandell, that's the pseudonym for Sarah Fabricius, Norwegian writer. And just Alberta is this wonderful character based on somewhat autobiographical. She's just such an interesting, well thought out, well described character, full of she wants to live, she wants experience, she wants to be creative and happy. And in this novel especially, she wants to be warm, and she's in cold Norway, and her cold mother and just everyone connected to her. I mean, she's has a somewhat better relationship to her father, and she does dote on her brother. But it's just a wonderful, fantastic novel based on, somewhat connected to her own experiences, I think. It's fantastic. So this comes in at number 5. Number 4, we have the yearly Trollop. And I would like to read more than one a year, but slow reader that I am, I only get to one. So this is Family Parsonage, which I really did enjoy. Maybe my favorite of the Barsetshire Chronicles so far. Dr. Thorne was really good too, though. Barsetshire Towers was good too. And I think this is number, what is this in the Barsetshire Chronicles? This is number, I forget which one this is. It's like, is it the 4th one? Anyway, so it's in the Barsetshire Chronicles, and it's a really good novel. So this is number 4. Yeah, so they've been on an upward trajectory since The Warden. The Warden's the one I've liked a little bit less, but Barsetshire Towers, I think Dr. Thorne even a bit more than Barsetshire Towers, and then this one probably as much, if not more than Barsetshire Towers. This is really, really good. I mean, Dr. Thorne. Sorry, Dr. Thorne. Dr. Thorne was really good too. So yeah, I love Trollop, and I need to put another one on my TBR, which I don't really have one, but I do want to read at least the next one. I'd love to get through the whole Barsetshire Chronicles and then continue with Trollop. I want to read all of the Trollops. So yeah. Next one has a kind of special status because it took me a whole year to read it. This is Uwe Jansson's chunky novel called Anniversaries. It's oftentimes, like the English translation that has come out recently, I think it's more than one. They do different volumes, and I just read this one big book over the course of a whole year. And the way I did it was I would read the sections for each day. So I did start in August. It's a diary type book, so but it's a lot more than that. I mean, it starts in August, and there's daily entries. She doesn't skip a day. She, the main character, but it's not really a diary in the sense that it's this frame through which we get her experiences living in New York City. The main character is Jazina, who's an amazingly well thought out character, and the writing is phenomenally good. I mean, this was really kind of in its own category of greatness, but I still put it in as number 3, the top 3. And it's a once in a lifetime read because of the way I read it. I mean, how often does one do that? And so on the one hand, you get all the sort of the trajectory of the year, 1967 through 68. So a lot of things happened in New York or in America in that year. Assassinations and all other Cold War stuff, and her own life stuff. But then it's interwoven very, very expertly with her memories, and even like before her own memories of the town that she grew up in, and her parents' story, basically the story of her parents, specifically her father and mother's weird relationship and marriage, and then the father, and then also her kind of growing up, her youth too. Then later on in the second, in towards the end, it's more like her high school days. And it's a fantastic novel, and I highly recommend it, and it comes in at number 3. So Uwe Jansson's Anniversaries. So I did finish this in August of this year, right? Because that's when I started. I'm trying to remember when I finished it. It took me a long time, and in a way I really did because it was such an interesting reading experience to read a book over the course of a year in little snippets. I really did like that because it's unusual and you don't really often do that. So that's number 3, and then we get into my top 2 reads of 2020. Number 2, and these are really a toss-up, but I'm going to put it at number 2. Duranda. I loved it so much. I did. I loved Duranda, and I do think I loved it more than Middlemarch. I'd have to reread Middlemarch to see, but I really loved this novel, and I think I have talked about this on here, maybe as part of my Vlogmas, or I have a video. I don't know. I'm sorry. I haven't been doing videos specifically on books for that long, so very good, amazing. You should all read it. I know that Kim's read it, and Sariella read it and loved it. So my number 1 novel, just because it was just so fantastic and the reading experience was so special to me, Alberta and Freedom, the one that takes place in Paris. So you get the kind of Norwegian, she hangs out with a lot of people from Norway and Denmark, but they're in Paris, and she's very poor and lonely and sad, but it's still Paris. And so I love the kind of intersection of the French stuff with the Scandinavian, just her cultural background. And actually she lives with a German woman, as I recall. But this was just very atmospheric, even more so than the first one, and beautifully written, deeply, deep thoughts, sort of proto-feminist in a certain sense, because she's so... and I just loved how she doesn't sort of do things for other people. She waits. She's kind of, there's a lack of, she's not lazy or anything. It's just she's waiting. You can tell she's waiting to see what her life will be like, and kind of does let herself be carried along by the people in her orbit a little bit. So there's a passivity to her that I think some people might find frustrating, but I could sort of sense it's a useful, or she's waiting in a certain sense for and also because it's as if it's a sort of almost a type of resistance on her part to be like this. It's a form of protest somehow, to resist the structures around her, the patriarchal structures or whatever. And she's working towards becoming a writer, of course. That's what's going to be. And that's where the autobiographical stuff comes in. An amazing novel, my number 1 novel of 2020. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I'll put this with the other part, and yeah, those are my amazing top 10 reads of 2020. See you soon. Bye.